Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are an Arsenal podcast, and with me tonight, I've dug them up. It's the boy. It's 1, 2, 3. It's 2/5, much like the Beatles. No, there was 4 of them. There's 2/5 of Goonersphere. I'll start with the man who's got the same name as me. It's James Rowell Stokes. Oh, no, that's not my name, is it? All right, Stokesy.
Hello.
How you doing, Treacle?
I'm fair to middling. Lockdown blues, but getting there.
You're very red. Are you all right? You're not going to have. You haven't got the plague or anything.
There's a light right above my head. That's why I'm so red. If I do that,
I thought you were just angelic or angry.
I'm going to turn it off. Actually.
Oh, a late
now
night action.
More mood lighting. Yeah.
Same with my lights. If I have the one, my LEDs are above me. One shines on my big, fat, bald, greasy head, and no one can see anything. It's
illumination.
Disgusting. Don't need any of that lot. Also, another part of the Goonersphere, the man who made it all run. That we all know, Daniel, that the people who are in charge are the ones with all the skills, actually, and the others are just around there to make us feel good, aren't they? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dani. I'm pleased to be back in the saddle, along with the real talent. We all know everyone else is the real talent. I was just the code monkey.
We forgot last time you were on to there was an announcement at the end of the last podcast that you were on, and you forgot to announce it. So what was the announcement, and how did the announcement get on?
Well, it's probably a good thing we didn't announce anything. Well, the announcement was that James and I are planning a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, we're planning a comeback. We're taking our 2-man tap dancing show on the road. We'll be going.
It's going to be glorious.
Town to town. We're going to be doing interpretive dance.
We're
going to be interpreting the 1984-1985 Argos catalogue through the medium of silent dance and mime.
Oh,
I couldn't get through that with a straight face.
There's a
That's
website.
how out of practice I am.
There is a website with all the old Argos catalogues on. Did you know about that?
Well, that's where we get our inspiration.
That's where we've been looking.
Well, that was on the 7th of October 2020. That was our highest viewing show of that month. We got 5,357 views, 117 likes. We got 7 dislikes. So Jock has obviously
that's all Jock.
Yeah, all I can say is that collectively, James and I are a very big deal. We have many leather-bound books, and our apartment that we share
smells of rich mahogany.
Smells of rich mahogany.
And you have a pipe that you share between you. You have 6 months each of custody of the pipe. And from when you're feeling wise, you get out one of your crusty books, sit back and try and educate your kids. How's that going?
Well, we just like to relax with a little bit of jazz flute.
Oh, amazing. So any update on how did that show do? That you said you were coming back on the 7th of October. You said you were going to relaunch it. Did you do any? Because I don't remember seeing any of them.
No, we haven't got round to it yet. We are very busy people. Both got very young families, so it will happen. I just don't know when.
We'll get there.
Well, you need to make the most of a young family.
We'll probably just emerge in a blaze of glory at some point. Just when people are at that point where they're not expecting it, then we arrive.
Yeah, make the most of having young. Because soon your kids, they will leave you and they will pretend that you are dead. And they won't give a shit. You may get a call once a month from university asking for money or food, and then that's it. That's what they do. Because quite frankly, when they get older, they're scumbags.
We're going to Freddie Youngberg it. No one's going to suspect a thing, and out of nowhere, we're just going to arrive late in the box and bury it in the back of the net.
Or you're both off to play for Shizuma S-Pulse in Japan. It's one or the other. And personally, I hope it's the first. Right, now we've got all that nonsense out of the way. Let's. The first thing that I think we should talk about is the Southampton games. Daniel, start with you. The first game of the FA Cup game, he dropped half the team and brought in a load of people we'd never heard of, and we got absolutely smashed 1-0 with an own goal, as some people would tell you on Twitter. And then the return game, which was the league game for me, which is the most important, we smashed them 3-1 last night. So what was your thoughts on the whole double Southampton? I can't think of a word.
Yeah, I think the double header. Yeah, I think it went precisely how it was always going to go. Arteta said after the 3-1 win the other night that he had to rest players. And, I think I said at the time, if you look at Arsenal's first choice 11, our best possible 11, I think we've got a top 6 11. I think you could say our first 11 is worthy of a top 6 place or can compete with anyone in the league. Problem is we don't have a good 25. We have had, and we continue to have, a lot of dead weight, a lot of dross in the squad. People who aren't necessarily bad players, but they're not top level players. They're not people you can rely on. And I think of someone like El Neni, who is not a bad player. I think he's a reliable squad player, but he's the sort of person you bring in a League Cup match, or the person you bring on with 10 minutes to go when you just want someone extra to stick in a few tackles who's not on a yellow card yet, or if they need to put in a last ditch tackle and take the yellow, someone you don't mind losing. But at the moment he's sort of teetering in that position where he's considered an important first team player because he's playing regular games, he's coming on a lot, he's almost always on the substitutes bench, and I don't think that's the quality that we really need to look at. But then you see Emile Smith-Rowe and Partey both picking up injuries on Tuesday night, and you can really start to see why we rested players on at the weekend. And I think that whilst losing a match in the FA Cup, a cup which is inexorably ours. It's our cup. We've won it more than anyone else. We've been in more finals than anyone else. It's Arsenal's cup. It hurts to go out, but it was right for us to prioritise the league game. We need to get further up the league if we want to attract good quality players and move on.
What do you think, James?
I agree with Daniel. I mean, when you scroll through Twitter, you do see a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with what he did, but he had to do it. You cannot field your strongest team for every single game, so you have to prioritize. And as far as I'm concerned, if we're going to start prioritizing the three competitions that we're in, then some people might disagree with me, and that's fair enough. But I personally think the FA Cup is the bottom of the three. I think if we're going to go for a cup, we're far better off putting everything towards the Europa League because the reward's bigger. We haven't won the competition. If we win it, we get the Champions League, which I don't think we're going to accomplish Champions League through the league. That's looking more and less likely as each week passes. Although you never know. It's been a funny old season, hasn't it? I mean, we could put a good run together and quite easily get up there. We're only 4 points behind Liverpool. But if you think about it logically, we're probably not going to. So in that respect, yeah, I totally agree with Daniel. I think he made the right decision to pick a lesser team for the first game and a stronger one for the second. As far as the games themselves go, I thought the first one was an unbridled shower of toilet. We didn't deserve anything from it, really. But at the same time, we didn't deserve anything from it. But I didn't think we looked particularly sort of like in danger of getting a battering. We didn't get overrun. Southampton were noticeably the better team. It's just one of those meh games that we lost due to a shitty own goal. And those things happen from time to time. I don't really see the point of getting too mad about it. And I thought the repeat fixture last night, I thought we were really, really good. It's a much more open game. Arguably, we were worse defensively in the victory because we did concede quite a few chances, but I thought offensively we were markedly better and we deserved to win.
The pressing was just insane from the first minute, and they were actually very fortunate to go ahead. It was just, not knocking Pepe because he had a great job, a great game, but he didn't do his job in that first cut. He wasn't awake in those first couple of minutes. He wasn't doing his defensive job, which is why he lost Armstrong, and they got that goal. But apart from that, like James says, they had chances, but we were just so much better offensively. And it could have been 4 or 5 or 6. We had the opportunity to do that.
I do think that sometimes these arseholes on Twitter, Twitter, but first of all, the people on Twitter don't realise that the vast majority of the human race have no idea what Twitter is. And the ones who know what Twitter is don't give a fuck about what you're saying on Twitter. They all think you're idiots. And those shouting and screaming just because they've got the bigger mouths and they think they know. So if you knew anything, people, if you knew anything about football, you would not be sat at home in your mum's basement with a pile of sandwiches next to you. I was going to say porn then, but you would do manage football. You're idiots, so shut up.
You do sometimes get the impression that there are, and whether you want to say rightly or wrongly so, but there are people who think or assume that if a person has X amount of followers and that immediately decrees some sort of level of knowledge, when a lot of the time I'm not going to name any names, but there are certain people who I could point this at. The bigger the following, the bigger the fucking moron.
Do you know, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of stuff, both in, well-known, video blogs and podcasts and people tweeting and whatnot. It's really interesting that there seems to be a bit of a shift. There's a lot of people now who are very virulently anti-Arteta because they can't see the project. And then there are they don't want to. And there are other people who can see the project who are defending it. And again, I'm not going to name names, but I saw someone the other day saying about their problem with people who are anti-Arteta is that they don't have a problem with them disagreeing with the manager or not thinking the manager's the right person. Their problem is when their opinion turns to hate. And I was looking at you just thinking, like, you have no self-awareness. Like, this person was one of the biggest abusers of Arsene Wenger every single week. Like, no matter, I mean, give them credit for consistency, but no matter the result, it was always Arsene Wenger's a clown, Arsene Wenger's a beep, 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 beep. It's just all the time, just constantly laying into Wenger. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey guys, let's be nice about the manager. Let's not abuse. And it's like, I just think collectively as a fan base, we are a very capricious, fickle bunch. There's a lack of self-awareness, especially around people within a Twitter sphere. And, I think that's the same at all clubs, because I think social media allows you to get away with just talking shit all the time without anyone really checking you. But it seems to be that little bit worse at Arsenal. And I think part of that is because we've still got amongst the fan base this big club mentality, but we're achieving mid-table club results and have been for a long time. We're a cup team, and we have been a cup team for a decade. I think it's that disconnect between expectation and reality leads to a lot of anger. But I do think that the Arteta project, as I'm going to call it, is raising that bar so that reality is going to start inching closer to expectation. It's not where people want it to be, but I say give it 2 or 3 years, and I think expectation and output are going to be very closely aligned.
True. It's I think it all started a few years ago when it was the tabloids doing the clickbait nonsense, and then after the tabloids doing clickbait, then it was the bloggers. Then after the bloggers, it was the big Twitch. I mean, the big Twitter people. Twitch not involved in any of this. It was the big names on Twitter, and now it's absolutely everybody clickbaiting to try and become famous. But I often see people tweeting and going, "Oh, follow me! I want more followers." I say, no, you don't want any followers. The less followers you have, the better. That's the less number of people that are going to tell you you're wrong.
Because I think I did clickbait once.
Oh, I've done it loads of times.
It was deliberate. The clickbait, it was Arsenal signed 30 million wonder kid Riquinho, and it got about something ridiculous like 150,000 clicks, and it was a rickroll. As soon as they clicked that link, it took them straight onto the website, which started auto playing Rick Astley. And it was interesting that a lot of people who clicked it was just like, I don't get this. Like, what is this about? And it's like, okay, clearly, like, you don't know what rickrolling is. But that was probably the best ever performing article that I ever put out, especially in the first 24 hours. And it goes to show that this is why that's why they do clickbait. Really, all people care about is transfers. Yeah. That's it. Which is why like in the middle of the season, you've got the transfer rumours. You go onto, the BBC News website, you go onto Sky Sports. Every night at midnight, they update it with the latest article of all the latest rumours. And I click on them, I read them. I was getting pissed off with Sky Sports the other day because on the list of Arsenal transfer rumours, it kept saying in the headline, it was like, Ozil close to reaching deal with Fenerbahce, and then the next line was saying Mustafi tries to force way out or something like that with a question mark. And I clicked into it, and there were 20 like individual stories laid into it. Not a single one of them was about Mustafi. And I'm clicking, refreshing it every sort of hour or so, thinking you're drawing me in to find out the latest news on Mustafi, and you're not giving me the latest news on Mustafi. So, it happens to all of us. Everyone's interested in those clickbaity articles, and we all get suckered into it, which is why they keep doing it. So, we've got to break the cycle, I guess. Stop reading the crap.
And then you've got the other level of Arsenal fandom is the ones who say shit because it's their living. They've got to say controversial stuff. They've got to get outraged. They've got to throw their phones and scream at the camera and bang the table because that's what people want. It's Big Brother syndrome. If everyone sat around on Big Brother drinking tea and talking about the weather, nobody would watch it. So they've got to get there. That's why Big Brother moved on from a social experiment to getting all the influencers and getting all those morons on. Ignore them. Your opinion means
backstory, isn't it?
It's what?
I say it's the X Factor backstory. I mean, give it a few more years, and there'll be people on a YouTube channel saying, "I've come along to this Arsenal match hoping for a win because my nan always wanted me to go to my nan always believed that one day I would watch Arsenal play West Brom at the Emirates." Some shit like that. And I've got to do it good. She died last year, and I want to fulfill her final wish of seeing the Arsenal under-23s play the Wolves under-23s and some crap like that. It's going to be that crappy backstory, isn't it? You're not there for the show. You're not there for the opinions. You're not there for the talent. You're there for the story.
But it's so much has changed since. But ABW started in 2013. I think I started in 2012.
Is it that long ago? Jesus.
Yeah. We've done.
The year we started.
This is podcast 387. So that's 387.
I was on the third episode you did.
Oh, great days.
Is that the one where you just constantly talked about biscuits?
No, I think I did that with Amanda. No, it's cake.
Cake.
Yeah.
Battenberg. Yeah.
Battenberg, yeah. We had a lengthy discourse about the do's and do nots of preparing and eating a delicious Battenberg.
As long as you don't get a tattoo of a flaming Battenberg on your arse, that's was that Welsh bloke who's got one, the Canadian. Huh?
Too late. I'd bare my ass on this podcast to show everyone, but I don't think that'd go down particularly well.
There might be ladies watching and they wouldn't be able to contain their excitement. Yeah, so the whole
nausea.
So before we started, I was saying to Dan that you should come back because there's so many Arsenal podcasts out there that are absolute shit. You've got people who can barely string a sentence together, knocking out podcasts at an alarming rate. People who have a huge agenda. Talking about having clickbait and stuff like that. You'll never see any clickbait from the ABW account, and that's been going since 2013. And we don't. I mean, my own account do it all the time. Did one last night. I said, you lot should be grateful. Pepe has almost not been shit for the entire game or something like that. And then he goes and scores a goal. And I think I kind of jinxed that. But there's so many people make a living out of being, well, I'm going to say out of being arseholes about nothing's ever good enough. Everything's shit. And it's just going to get worse and worse as the age of the demographic of the people listening to the shows is getting younger and younger and younger. People who used to be regular listeners to ours don't listen anymore. They've gone off and had families and grown up. And so you get younger and younger people, and all they want is drama. They want outrage. It's like when you watch the YouTube stuff. That's bled into podcasting, and there are a handful of really decent ones out there. We're lucky, but I think at any one time there's about 70 or 80 Arsenal podcasts going around, and I support all of them. Well, a couple that I don't like, but yeah, more the merrier. But it does mean that trying to find some decent gems is really hard. But
you don't get anywhere with a balanced, thought-out argument these days, do you?
That's the point I'm trying to make. They're not interested. If you have a decent discussion on tactics and stuff, I don't want to know that. I just want to know. I want to see you scream and punch someone. Well, no, that's not going to happen. So, what else are we going to talk about? You mentioned transfers, Dan. Daniel. I nearly called you Dan then. I hate being called Dan. Yeah. So, what's your thoughts on the? Do you have any thoughts on Matt Ryan and on the bloke called Martin, who I've got a little 1 minute audio clip to play from my Norwegian mate. Yeah, that's it. So I want to know what you both think about Matt Ryan and what you both think about Martin.
Want to go first, James? Oh, okay, fine.
I'm just going to get a smoothie. 2 seconds. I'm going to the fridge. It's right behind me.
I think
hot smoothie action.
Yeah, I think both I think both are decent signings. My only real concern is, and I think this comes down to availability, money, etc. It's the loan element of it. So I know that we were looking at David Raya in the summer. We ended up, ended up picking up Runarsson, who's turned out to be toilet. So
you put some thought into what you were going to say then.
So we needed another keeper. My only worry about the business that we've done is that we've had to work incredibly hard to free up space in the squad by moving on, players who aren't, well, we've moved on Papa and we've moved on Ozil, who weren't in the squad of 25. We've created one space by passing over, but by selling or loaning out Kolasinac. So we've got one space. So where do they fit in? What's going to happen? Someone's going to have to leave.
Runarsson will be going.
Runarsson, possibly.
Maybe Mustafi as well.
Yeah. So, I think it's just the numbers are so finely balanced. So I think we've done good business. And I think, do you know what? People are going to give Arteta a lot of grief over recruitment, specifically because of what's happened with Willian. I do think the best outcome between now and the end of the season for all concerned is for Willian to actually find some form. That is the best outcome, because then we get the player that we were supposed to have. He also then creates possibly a bit of interest with other teams, and then we can move him on. Otherwise, we might end up with a situation where we have a bit part player picking up 200 grand plus a week, which is not sustainable. But when I look at when I look at what Arteta has done, what did we need? We needed a left-footed centre back. He's brought in two brilliant ones. Gabriel is going to be an absolute worldie. Pablo Mari has quietly come in, 14 million quid, and in today's money, that's pennies, and he has been faultless. Rob Holding has sort of revitalised his career a little bit. It looked like at one point he might be going out on loan, but he's been one of our best defenders, for a number of weeks. He's brought in, a couple of extra keepers to replace Macy and Martinez. He's brought in Thomas Partey, Thomas Partey is that player. Do you remember that period between sort of 2010 and about 2018 under Wenger, where we always said, we're one player away from challenging? That one player is Thomas Partey. He's that player that we were missing that whole time. And everyone always wants to make the comparison to Patrick Vieira, but actually I think the player that he's most similar to is Michael Essien. Obviously his probably would have been one of his idols in the national team at Ghana. He's had that similar kind of impact. He's come in and he hasn't played a lot because of injuries and stuff, but you've seen glimpses of this guy's a real player. He's an absolute baller. And, we've managed, it's no wonder Atletico Madrid are so annoyed with us. We've just ripped probably the best player out of their team for what is pretty reasonable money in today's. So I think Arteta has brought in players in every position where we've needed to strengthen. But more impressively, he's managed to clear out all the players who were either a negative influence on the team or a negative influence on the squad, or who were picking up a paycheck and not part of the not part of the plan. So I think when you actually look at what's been achieved in 2.5 transfer windows, really he's done an outstanding job.
That won't go down well on Twitter. Do you want to change your opinion?
No, I don't care what people want to say. Yeah.
James, have you got a counter opinion that you're gonna? Do you want to throw something? Do you want to insult his parentage, or just storm off, or do you agree?
I'm not really insulting the parentage or storming off kind of guy, so I shan't do either of those. It's very hard. I mean, Daniel and I tend to think alike and have the same opinions, and what he says I tend to agree with. And this is the only thing I would say where I think Arteta has made two mistakes, or mistakes is probably not the correct choice of word. Two things he's done that I don't necessarily agree with. One is Runarsson. I think he was it's just a baffling purchase, that one was. I can't think of any logical reason why someone who can't get into Dijon's first team would be deemed good enough for Arsenal. Maybe there are people there who know more than I do, but that one baffles me. And
well, there is a reason. There was a little bit of a reason, if you want me to tell you.
It was the goalkeeper coach, right? He knew
That's it. Yeah. Not that that's a good enough reason. And plus, they had a player that was worth £1 million, had a good run of games. And they went, "Oh, will you take 20 million for him?" And I went, "Fuck yes, we'll take 20 million. We'll go and buy someone who can we get for £1 million? Oh, my nephew or whatever it was." So not exactly the greatest football in TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his fault. I feel sorry for him to an extent. It's not his fault. He's just not at this level, and I don't think he ever will be.
Yeah,
it's a bit. Sadly. I think it's a bit harsh because a lot of people just say, "Oh, he's shit, and he's this, he's that, he's the worst goalie." But it's a bit harsh that after a couple of games, one of which admittedly was unbelievably shit awful. The second thing I don't agree with or I didn't agree with and I still don't vehemently, is bloody Willian. 32-year-old from Chelsea passed his best for 3-year contract with madness. I just couldn't. I mean, you look at it, maybe he's a good squad player, maybe, but maybe on a year's contract, it would have made sense. Even 2, but 3, nah, that's just, that I don't agree with. That was madness. But in relation to the things he's done more recently, Matty Ryan, I think, is a solid Premiership goalkeeper and certainly solves our problem of having a backup, at least someone who we can rely upon. I've watched him a couple of times for Brighton. He's always looked like a decent shot stopper. Martin Odegaard, or however you pronounce his name. I'm not sure about its risk reward on that one. I mean, it's a risk. If he pays off, do we get to keep him? Probably not. If he has a blinding 6 months for us, then maybe he gets us into a higher league position. Maybe we can win a trophy, but are we going to keep him if he performs? If he performs really well, Madrid are probably going to want him back.
We said that about Ceballos last season, and we got him for a second season. And towards the end of last season for us, he was brilliant.
Yeah, you just get the impression that even Ceballos now, if we wanted to buy him, we still have to fork out 30-40 million for him. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not entirely sure that's a good idea.
No, I agree with what James is saying there about the 2 tough purchases and as well as the loans. You know, you're not going to get a huge amount of disagreement out of me on that. But I do wonder. I think as a club, I think our finances, we don't have the ability to buy the players we want, and I think part of that is down to the way this club has been absolutely grifted by Raul Sanei, but or Sanei, can't never quite managed to get my tongue around his name, but
Sanyehi.
Yeah, but he. Again, no disrespect to Pepe. I think Pepe is a good player, but there is something, deeply concerning about the fact that he cost almost identically what the club needed in order to get out of financial jeopardy.
How much would it have cost to buy Lille? Because French teams aren't expensive. I reckon you wouldn't have been far off with trying to buy the club for 76 million.
Yeah, and it's I think
someone remind me, how much were Palace quoting for Wilfried Zaha at the time?
2 billion,
about 80 million.
Well, he was greedy. He turned out to be a player. I mean, you're not a player at a club and go, "Oh, that Arsenal tried to sign me, and I wish I'd have gone." Oh, thanks. I wouldn't have wanted Zaha.
No, but I think he would have been the better choice of the two.
And I look at the deals that we're making at the moment with the loans and things, and look at how much money Barcelona owe. I don't know too much about the finances at Real Madrid.
1.7 billion.
Oh, it's a lot of money. But I do wonder if there wasn't a way that we could, this is just me talking shit here. I'm not saying this is what we should do or that is possible, but I would hope that if someone who knows their way around a business deal would be approaching Real Madrid going, look, you've got these players on your books who currently you're loaning out year after year. You're not playing them in your team. You're banking on them being big stars in the future in Ceballos and Odegaard. So why not sell them to us? We will bake into their contract that you can buy them back at the exact same fee that we buy them from you. So sell them to us at like a cheap fee, like 20, 25 million, whatever it is. You get money out of it. If they then become big bankable stars and you want to buy them back, okay, it's a risk for us that they do that in the future. But effectively, that's like getting them on a 3 to 4 year loan. You've got the stability of knowing that's your player until Real Madrid decide to come back in. But then if they come back in, player then has to decide, well, do I want to go back to Real Madrid? And if they've been in our team for a couple of years, regular starter, and they remember, well, actually, Real Madrid sold me and I couldn't get into the team before, they're constantly loaning me out. I'm looking at their team now and I don't actually see a way for me to get into the squad without having to, basically start from nothing again and start. That might be a possibility. I'm not saying it is, but, I think that there are ways for us to do things rather than having loans, because I also think loaned players, I think it's hard for fans to connect with a loaned player. Like, if you think back of all the players of our childhoods, the players we grew up on, and we're like, this is why I love football. The Ian Wrights, the Alan Smiths, the Dennis Bergkamps. For me, it was Ray Parlour. Imagine if they were
Nelson Vivas.
Yeah, Nelson Vivas. But imagine if instead of buying Dennis Bergkamp, we just had him on loan for 4 years from Inter Milan. Would we have had that same connection with him? It's the same with Thierry Henry from Juve. Getting him in, if we'd got him in on a 6 months loan in that January rather than buying him, I think that loaned players, I think there is a logic to loaning players out as a big club. You want to loan players out to smaller teams in order to get them games, to get them fitness, to improve their resale value, or to give them experience if they're a young player. If you're a big team, like we're supposed to be, if you loan a player in, usually it's because you have a short-term issue, like you're running low on fullbacks or whatever, or you loan someone in on a short-term contract just to get you through the end of the season because you've got an injury crisis or whatever, and then you're going to go for your main person in the summer. The fact that some of our biggest deals, or players who are quite important to the first team squad in the last few years, have come in on loans, it really worries me. I'm really worried that okay, Cedric has actually turned out to be quite a decent purchase for us, in my opinion. I think he's been a solid player. He's performed whenever he's come in. People will complain, he's keeping Ainsley Maitland-Niles out of the team, but personally, I don't really want to see.
He's a better fullback than him.
Yeah, and I don't want to see Ainsley playing fullback. I want to see Ainsley. I'd rather see Ainsley in the middle of the park than Elneny.
Me too, actually.
So,
yeah.
I look at that, and I just think. Okay, we got him in permanently in the end, but we loaned him from Southampton. Like, why are we borrowing players from Southampton? Why are we borrowing players from Brighton? And I get the whole try before you buy, but the point is that
with Matty Ryan, I think we'll buy him in the summer.
I hope so. I really do hope so.
We'll give him a contract. I mean,
yeah, and it's just it's I think there's a bigger story there at Arsenal. There's something brewing financially that's prohibiting us from buying top players, and I think it's something to be worried about.
That's probably just the effects of having no fans in the stadium for the whole season. Unless Chelsea and you can be bankrolled by Abramovich, who else is going to be able to go out and spend 200 million on? As Dani so eloquently puts it, Bundesliga bastards.
Yeah.
It's finally catching on.
It is, but what I would say about that is that two of the loans, so Soares and Ceballos, first and second loan, well, first loan mostly, happened before fans were stopped from going in stadiums. So it's not like this has happened as a result of COVID. This was happening before then. And I'm not saying, we have to freak out that we've got no money, but I am concerned that we're getting into a situation where we're never going to quite be the squad we want to be, because we're only ever buying that one big ticket player every year, which is, we bought Partey, but we need a couple more. And if all we're doing is bringing them in on loan, if they perform and they go off back to their clubs, I mean, this summer, potentially, we could be Odegaard down, we could be Ceballos down, and Matty Ryan, if he comes in and performs and he does well, and he's offered a first team place somewhere else or second fiddle at Arsenal, what's he going to choose? So I think potentially we have something brewing that in the summer we could find huge gaps in our squad and no money to replace them. And I don't want to end up in a situation where, we're buying the Icelandic Ali Dia to play in goal again.
It's one of those things where, I mean, you're right. I mean, you think about it. David Luiz will leave in the summer. Mustafi will leave in the summer. I have a sneaking suspicion. I could sneaking suspicion. It sounds odd, but especially given his really good form at the moment, I have a sneaking suspicion we won't offer Lacazette a new contract. I think because he's pushing 30, I think they'll be a little, apprehensive about giving someone that age that kind of contract. I don't think we'll keep him. I think we'll let him
go back to France. But
I think You'll have another season. He'll run his contract down.
Yeah, but he's probably. I was saying last night on our live show that he's not a player that he's not like Aubameyang. He doesn't rely on his pace. He's always going to be the same kind of player like that up until Premier League quality, 31, 32. So maybe he could sign another 2-year deal, and then when he's 32, and then go back to France. I know Lyon is his club. And at 32, playing in the Farmers League, you'd still get 30 goals a season easily.
I mean, shit, me and Daniel could probably get 30 goals a season in France.
Yeah, between us, maybe.
We've been. Oh, go on.
I was going to say on sort of transfers and squad and thing as well is another thing that is concerning. And James brought up a good point there. It's around contracts. And I know that Arteta is keen for us to avoid the position where we lose Aaron Ramsey, or we get players down into the last year of their contract and we have no choice but to sell or lose them on a free at the end of the year. And it's making me think about Bellerin. Because, again, I'm looking at the first team squad and I'm wondering, why is Eddie getting minutes? Why is Bellerin not? Is it because he's refusing to sign a contract? And it's one of those things. It's what comes first, the contract or the minutes? And someone's going to have to break. And I really hope that Bellerin looks at Arsenal and thinks, if I sign the contract, I'll get the minutes, and he does stay on, because I think he's a talented player. I'm
always a little bit iffy about that. I mean, He's a talented player, but up until now, would you agree he's not been getting the minutes? It just feels a bit like, should we promise him the minutes because he's not going to sign a contract, or do we give him a contract because he warrants the minutes? I
think he's not getting the minutes because of the contract saga. That's what I think, because he was playing. Yeah. He was playing in the Europa League and he was getting minutes there, and he was doing well, and he scored a couple of goals. And I look at it's funny. I was playing FIFA recently for the first time in about 6 years. It was really cheap, so I decided to buy it. And I've ended up managing some club in the A League in Australia, and I bought a player I bought them in on a free transfer. I was like, I know this player. Like, I know who's, like, why can't I remember who it was? And it was Galindo, who you might remember, young Bolivian kid. Well, he's not young anymore, but he signed for Arsenal about 2014, 2015. And
not heard of him.
Well, he was going to be the next, big thing. And I do remember him, and he came on the pre-season tour, and he got a few minutes. And he left, and it made me think, like, when was the last time a young player left Arsenal for whatever reason, whether it's because they hadn't quite made it or it's because they thought, they were too good to wait their chance, went somewhere else and had a bigger career, or actually even had a career that you can remember. And I think
probably Anelka. That's it, I think.
Well, but even his career was very stop-start, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The last one I can remember, and I'm going to go back a long ways here.
Andy Cole.
That's the last person I can remember leaving Arsenal and going on and having a better career elsewhere. I can't remember a single kid who's left. So, I would really hope that Bellerin, for the sake of his talent, decides to stay at Arsenal, because I do think he could bring a lot to the team, especially if we're going to lose Lacazette.
We've had a few do that in the past, haven't we? We had the other two Willock brothers. One of them, Matty Willock, went to Man United, and then last seen at Gillingham in, I think, the Championship or League One. And then Chris Willock, the other one who was meant to be the real talented one, went to Benfica. Then now he's last seen at Huddersfield on loan. I think he may have come back. Some other team. I did these notes quite ages ago. And then we had
the person that left Arsenal to do better that's done really well. What about Serge Gnabry?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is very true, actually. That is a cracking
We don't
point.
want facts like that. There's no room for facts like that in a pod like this. How dare you?
Yeah, keep those facts up. But yeah, Serge Gnabry, but I mean, a generational talent.
Yeah, but we didn't want him to go. The club didn't want him to go, did they?
No.
He wanted to go, didn't they?
Yeah, because Walcott was in his way and he was never going to get games, but he was magnificent. We got that Marcus Maguire went to Barcelona. I think he's now playing in the Championship. And you had another one who went to Juventus, Stefan Mafidi. He went to Juventus and then they've got rid of him and he's now back playing in France. So good point. Talking about loans.
God, you're like a fountain of information, aren't you?
Certainly am. Do you want to have a little loan quiz? Since the Premier League has started, Arsenal have had 17 players on loan. When you take out the 6 that have been that we currently have on and off for the last year or so, that leaves 11 players in the Premier League era that have come to Arsenal on loan. Should we have a quiz and see who can get the most number of them right? I'm thinking heads or tails. I'm thinking which one. So I've picked a heads or a tails. Daniel,
should we just shout them out?
No, I'm going to go one. You can have one at a go each. So
all right, we'll go one each.
All right, Daniel's got one, but Benayoun. James?
Henri.
Oh, good. Daniel?
Oh, yeah.
This isn't going well.
No, I'm stumped. I'm honestly stumped. I can't think.
Okay, now I got another one.
Go on, James.
Kim Kallstrom.
Hey, 2-1.
True.
Shout me if you got them, because Daniel's run dry.
Are we counting Sol Campbell and Jens Lehmann?
No, they weren't on loan. They come to us on short-term contracts.
Denis Soares.
Oh, yeah. 3-1.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the current ones, are we?
No. There is one we had from Real Madrid, a striker.
Baptista.
Oh, he's done it.
Yeah.
4-1.
Yeah.
There was a goalie we got from Palermo.
Viviano.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's embarrassing. I'll have to give this up soon.
Yeah.
We had a goalkeeper from Sunderland. Latvian.
Oh, Mark Poom.
Oh, yeah, Mark Poom, yeah. he's getting there just that little bit faster than me.
And the only other one was a young man we got from Bastia in France who we ended up signing and we sold to Barcelona.
Alex Song.
Hey, there you go.
I didn't know he was on though.
Yeah, short term. I mean, and the other ones you missed out, we wouldn't have got. James Hilson, goalkeeper from Reading in February 19. Mikael Papadopoulos, we had from Banik Ostrava on loan, and then we bought him. Fabian Caballero on loan from a Paraguayan side.
What was it? Wellington Silver? Was he on loan originally?
No,
we just loaned him out everywhere, didn't we?
He had 116 loans. And going back before that, before the Premier League era, Jim Leighton from Man United on loan, never used him. Then 1983, John McNeil. And then 1970, Dave Mechik. We got him from Atlanta Chiefs in the North American Soccer League. So, wow. There you go. That's Daniel, you've been tucked up like a kipper then. Do you tuck kippers?
But
in fairness, I was just inches before him. Which sounded dirtier than it was supposed to.
But you know what? But what I would say on that is 17 loan players, 11 of them in the Premier League area came in over a period of about 25 years.
Yeah.
And then the last 6 have come in the last 18 to 24 months.
Yeah.
And I think that shows the point that it's
You're
worrying.
making financial-wise, what's going on?
What is going on that we're having, not having or choosing, whatever the choice is, whether it's have no choice or we do have the choice, why are we loaning so many players?
It's 4 letters, I think, is the reason for that. PEPE. We've got no money. We've been stung.
Well, like I said, we were absolutely grifted by Raul. And, I think it's, you look at Willian, I think that's, I think the grift goes on, but not from Raul. I think there are other people where the grift is going on.
That guy with a funny name, isn't it? Kia Jarabshian.
Yeah.
His epoxy fucking clients.
And it's I'm really worried about. It's a bit, not to make it political, but it's a bit like what's going on with all the government contracts. They all seem to be going to someone's mate.
It's fucking nepotism, isn't it?
Absolutely, cronyism is the correct term.
I just assume that all members of the Conservative Party are somehow inbred and interrelated.
Well, yeah, probably. But, I think that I think it is a real, it's a real concern that we're loaning so many players. As you said, 6 in the last sort of 18, 24 months, 11 in 25 odd years before that. Or actually, if you want to go even further back, you're looking at about 13, 14 players in 50 years. Mad. Absolutely mad.
It is. It's weird. Right, boys and girls, we're going to have a little lesson here. My friend Christopher Herland, he is born in Norway, brought up in Brighton, went to South America for 6 years, wrote a book, Tears at the Bombonera, which is currently for sale somewhere. We're going to do a little pod with him coming on. He was the one during World Cup in Brazil. He was the one who did the interviews of Amy Lawrence for us. And now he's back in Norway and he's doing teaching. So I don't want anyone going, hold on, he's got a South London accent or whatever it is. No, he is a born and bred Norwegian and speaks perfect Norwegian. If you go to Twitter and go to @HYLLND, HYLLND. Go give him a follow. He's a wonderful bloke, and he's what he's done. He's helped us useless British people out by being a teacher. He's going to teach us how. This is going to take about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Going to teach us how to say the Martin man. Are we all ready?
Hang on. What was his thing with you again? His address?
Highlander.
HYLLND. But his surname is Highland. I probably can't say that.
It could be only one.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, nuns, no sense of humour.
That's fucking, I've got that wrong. I'll look it up afterwards.
Okay, right. So here we go. 1 minute of him schooling us.
Let's practice his name together. Martin Odegaard.
I can't find where the speaker is.
You have in the surname you have 2 A's together, which in Norwegian you can also write with a single A with a ring on top. I'm sure many people have seen it. That's an or sound. So in fact, all 3 Norwegians who have played for the Arsenal have that sound in their name. Paul Lydesen of the early 90s. Håvard Nordtveit, captain of the reserves. I don't think he ever played for the first team in an official match. And hopefully, Martin Odegaard. As Erling Braut Haaland of Borussia Dortmund has said in interviews before, he says when people say his name in English, he doesn't mind if people call him Haaland because there is no or sound. I mean, there is a sound, but there's no or letter in English. So he doesn't mind that people call him Haaland. So I'm sure Martin Odegaard won't mind. But if you're pedantic or interested in languages, Martin Odegaard.
Fascinating.
Martin.
Can I just put something out there, which I...
You're not going to poo-poo him, are you?
No. He's absolutely right. And I wouldn't think to 1 second to disrespect your friend because he knows far more about that language than I ever will. It's just a theory. And it's something I think you both might agree with. His name is actually far better when you say it in a terrible northern accent. So it's fucking Martin Odegaard. Much better.
You said that just as your audio broke up, and I think it enhanced it a little bit. Try it again in Northern accent. Yeah.
Fucking Martin Odegaard, the bastard.
I think the name probably sounds slightly better in the South Park Took Our Jobs accent.
Go on.
Martin Odegaard.
Odegaard.
Odegaard. It's Odegaard. Martin. Yeah. I'm just going to refer to him as Martin.
A little unknown fact is actually James Stokes is the anglicised pronunciation. Everybody who speaks proper Bristolian knows that his name is actually James Storks, isn't it?
Yeah, hello, I'm Mr. Storks, I am. Here, Storksy. I got a good idea, I have.
Yeah. I'm off to Asdal.
That Bristolian accent does me in. It's like, so, James, if you know any women that are dark gingerish,
there's nothing wrong with a Bristolian accent.
I know, I love it. A little bit plump. If you've got any, just send them my way, because of that accent, they make me melt. I love them.
Do you want me to put a wig on for you? Because I will.
Again, yeah, but the last time you billed me for £600, and
services rendered. I'm not cheap.
And then you sent me the people who did justice for Gimli's Willie, people, the solicitors around, and it cost me £6,000 in the end.
What we can do for £35, you could have a picture of Jock in a training bra.
And I wouldn't say there isn't one.
I would just like to say I distance myself from this conversation.
How is Jockey Wocky Doodah? I do miss him.
He's doing really well for himself, Jock. He's got himself he's a content editor, and he's really fucking good at it as well. It's like, for him, it's his dream job. Because we all know he was always a really, really good writer. But it's like someone has given him the opportunity where he can have an avenue to do that for a living. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
And do you ever hear from Simi Javel?
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
How's he doing?
Me, Jock, and Sim watched the FA Cup final together. Obviously, we can't really see each other much at the moment, which is a bit sucky. Yeah. Simmy's married now. He's a married man now.
No.
He's got a lovely wife called Kieran.
I was trying to set him up with my Sean. He's a good. He put himself on camera after a show once. I went, no wonder you don't have the camera on. You're a good-looking young man. Who's any about the other ones? Green Banton. Who was that?
Mike. Yeah.
Mike's nearly married now. He's engaged.
Yeah, he's doing well for himself too.
Is there anyone else I've forgotten?
Well, yeah, we did have a sort of short-term love affair with a chap over in America, but then he ditched us for a younger model.
He sullied himself by moving towards the darkness, is all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, of course, yes, Devon. Last time I spoke to him, we had a disagreement.
You did?
Yeah, I've not spoken or heard from Devon in a long time, but I hope he's doing well, because he's a seriously talented guy.
He's a fucking good musician. Really good.
I'll tell you the story after the show, because it's quite shocking. Lovely bloke, but yeah, it ended on a sour note. Bless him. Right, moving on from. I
want to hear that story.
Inside podcast nonsense that no one cares about. The only other things I've got to talk about is
did you send him one too many unsolicited pictures of your genitals? And he finally just snapped.
Could you find it? Because I'm a bit fat and I've got no idea where it's all gone.
So
it was worth the rummaging. Put it that way.
Do you know on the iPhone now you have the widgets and it can scroll through your photos?
No, because I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I don't own an iPhone.
Oh,
well, I do, and I love it.
Do I.
Anyway, it scrolls through every now and again. It picks out photos from a couple of years ago.
Or
5 or 6 or 8-10 years ago. There's one particular photo which you sent me around about 2014 as a joke.
I know exactly what.
And I forwarded it on to James and Jock just to freak them out. And it came up randomly on my phone the other day. It's a picture of you in a very milky bath with a delicately placed sponge.
Or as Mike and Andy from the Goonersphere
I looked at my phone and I was like, why the hell do I still have that?
You know why you still have that. But Mike and Andy have now edited that, put a big pink flamingo where the sponge was, and they've got Andy dive bombing into my bath, and then Mike also adds himself into the picture, because quite frankly, they're perverts.
if we're gonna Photoshop that, what we should be doing is replacing the sponge with Bernie Sanders in his mittens,
or just a giant mitten. And he could have Conor McGregor asleep in the side of the bath with me.
Give yourself a bit of credit there, mate.
Yeah, sorry, a tiny little glove. Right, so is there any point talking about Willian and Pepe? I think we've already covered that, haven't we?
Nah.
Okay. My thoughts for the rest of the season. If I go and have a look at the current scores in the Premier League, Chelsea today drew 0-0 with the mighty Wolverhampton Wanderers at home. Everton are beating Leicester 1-0, which is good for us. And Man United are at home to Sheffield United, and Sheffield United are winning 1-0 at half-time. Now, we all know that Man United will get 6 or 7 penalties and end up winning this 9-1. But
the worst thing that can happen is them to lose before they play us on Saturday, because it will just be one of those where they'll come, they'll be empowered, they want to get back from a loss, and we'll end up doing something fucking stupid. So I'd quite happily if they win or draw that one.
Well, a draw would be good, but looking at the league table, a little while ago we were bang on dead certs, listen, according to this Twitter, that we were going to get relegated, or next season we'll be in the Championship if we were lucky. We're currently on ninth place. We've dropped down a place because Chelsea have got a point today. They're in 8th on 30, but they've got a better goal difference. We're only 3 points behind Spurs. Spurs, the greatest team that's ever played football. Yes, they've got 2 games in hand, but we've got the points. And they've got to earn the points. And Liverpool are 4 points ahead of us. Daniel, how do you feel about the season, how the turnaround, and how do you think the rest of the season is going to go? Are you full of the joys of spring?
Oh, I'm brimming with optimism. I remember just before Christmas, I remember saying to the pod guys, and I think I might have said it on the old Twitter as well, that if we go on a run, we've got the potential. We had games, and we just beaten Chelsea. So it was just after Christmas, actually. And so the games that are coming up, if we can sort of take close to maximum points out of those, we're going to be shooting up the table. This nonsense about Arsenal being in a relegation battle it's just hyperbolic bullshit from people who just talk absolute crap. Who've got, how ridiculous do you have to be to look at a team like Arsenal? But bearing in mind, okay, we might be going through a bad run of form, and we might not have the best squad that we've ever had, but to look at Arsenal and to look at the teams that are also in the Premier League and try to claim that there are 17 better teams than us, and there's no way we're going to get out of the relegation. It was ridiculous. We've now got 16 points out of 18, I believe. In our last, six
in the form table.
So I don't think any team's going to be better than us in form. I think we're probably going to be leading the form table. I can't imagine.
Well, Man City are 6 out of 6 with 18, and like you were saying, we're second with 16. But we've got a goal difference of plus 12 in 6 games.
Yeah, how
long did we spend on minus goal difference?
Yeah, and you know what? I look at the big test. I thought in that initial run after Chelsea was going to be Southampton. And I thought that if we lost to Southampton, or if we had like a difficult draw, it would have knocked all the wind out of our sails. And I think that having won the way that we did so comprehensively, it was a superb performance all round. I mean, okay, we conceded a goal early on, but defensively, it was a fantastic performance. The pressing was excellent. The attacking, the movement of the front players was just so good. And Pepe had an outstanding game. I mean, if Pepe's performing, then God, what does that say about the rest of the team? So I think that having won that game, having that extra day's rest over Man United, going into Saturday's game, I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're going to win it, but I don't think we're going to lose it either. I think we're probably going to end up drawing, and that will be a good result for us, because then we have, again, another little run of games where we can pick up results. And I think as long as we can keep the momentum going and we can eke out results in games, like the upcoming Man United game and other games we've got further down the line, I think that there is a real opportunity for us to break into the top 6. I might even be as bold as to say that I don't think top 4 is settled yet. And I'm not saying that we're going to be in there, but there's no reason we couldn't be in there. As you say, we're 3 points off Spurs, we're 4 points off Liverpool. The champions a misfiring. Chelsea are not doing very well at the moment. They're kind of having the reverse season to what we had. They started
they're
strongly.
14th in the form table with 5 points.
Oh, they're in a relegation battle. You know, and then, you know, I think that Man City are obviously doing well. Man United are doing well. Everton and Leicester are pushing, you know, strongly up the table. I actually think the team that everyone should look out for, who could absolutely surprise everyone, is Aston Villa.
That's a good show.
Games in hand.
They've got so many games in hand, and they've got a really settled team. And I think this is probably the difference, say, between Aston Villa and Arsenal. Whereas we're sort of that team in transition, we're trying to move a lot of players out and bring a lot of players in. Aston Villa have been doing very quiet business over the last few years. And the biggest splash they made this year was to buy Martinez from us, which massively strengthened their team, which is why, you know, he's got the most clean sheets in the league. They've got a very, very stable team. They've got a good manager. They've got a defined style of football, which lends itself well to playing a defensive game or playing on the counter-attack, like when they done us up like a kipper. And they've got some, you know, standout players as well. I mean, Jack Grealish is out of this world. You know, supremely talented guy.
Barkley is brilliant, and they've just gone and spent 17 million on a central midfielder from Marseille. Is
he any good, that guy?
I've no idea. I could pretend and go, "Oh yeah, I've seen every game he's ever played," but I've never even heard of him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. No, same. But
Chris will know, won't he?
Oh, he's probably hearing this through the vibes. Probably knows him. Probably friends of him.
Probably his own personal consigliere.
Is it English coach? But you know, I look at the league this year, and it's so unbelievably open. And I think part of that is actually the situation we're in with COVID is really interesting. I mean, it's terrible, it's horrible, but from a football perspective, it's interesting because not having the fans, it shows what an impact fans have, but not having those fans in the stadium, I think, is actually leading to slightly better refereeing performances because they're not being influenced by the crowd. We're actually seeing teams which are usually doing really well at home are actually conceding a lot of goals and, you know, dropping points. Not having that 12th man geeing the team on, I think has helped. But also, I think conversely, for teams which are wanting to push on that kind of mid-table level, not having the expectations of fans who are very going to be up and down, sort of like, yeah, we've won a game, and the next one, boo, you're all crap. You know, but like you tend to get in the mid-table where you win one, lose one, win one, lose one. You rarely pick up a bit of form. They're picking up form now because I think there's that pressure has been lifted. I think when fans are allowed back into the stadium, I think we're going to see a bit of a revert to type, and the top four is going to be a bit more predictable and stable again. But I think right now, with the whole situation around football, it's so open, and you know, don't count us out of the top four. With the run of form we're on, if we continue with this run of form in the remaining, how many games we've got left? 18 games. You know, with our current run of form in those 18 games, you know, you pick up, I don't know, 50 points, 45, 50 points, then suddenly, you know, we're between 70 and 80 points. I think that might be enough to get in the top four this season.
Great point on the crowds, because Burnley went to Liverpool and broke their run of 76 games. I think it was 76 at home in the league without losing. Went there 1-0 with a penalty. That never would have happened normally. And then tonight, Burnley have gone and beaten Aston Villa 3-2. I mean, how often do Villa concede goals? Hardly ever. Looking at the form table, James, it's like I was saying, Arsenal are in second with 16. Spurs are 9th with 8. Liverpool are 11th with 6 points. Chelsea are 14th with 5. Do you think that Daniel's got a point? Well, I agree with him that top four isn't out of the question because every team apart from Man City is on its arse, and then they win and then they lose.
When I said it earlier along in the podcast that I was sort of skeptical or dubious that we'd be able to make it, I think since saying that, I've been thinking about it. I had to look at some of the results as they were coming in earlier, like you said. You think everything is so unpredictable. I mean, there is no sort of pattern to be established from anything. I mean, there's no home results. There's no favouring towards away results. It's just madness, essentially. The fact that I'm sure this will upset a lot of their fans. But the fact that Man United are contending for the league without actually having really been any good at all just shows you what the whole sort of farrago of nonsense this season is. I mean, it could very well find us in 4th, but if we have a dip in form, we could be 15th, 16th. I'd like to think that sort of bad patch that we had, the succession of losses in games that you'd ordinarily thought we'd get points in, that sort of patch, hopefully that's out of the way. We've got that out of our system. The mistakes that were made in that run have sort of been rectified, and I think we look a much better team. And when I say team, the emphasis is on team. We look a better team, look more together, more like the players are on board with one another, and more like there is a system in which certain key components gel. Whereas when we were playing before, and I don't want to single players out, but it's the specifics for me with David Luiz, Willian, and those kind, they just look more like they were happy to sort of shamble around aimlessly, pocketing their wages and not really putting the kind of effort we needed in. Whereas now we've had that injection of useful impetus and we look a much better team for it. So I think Arteta has learned that that's where the team is in this squad. The team is the people, the young players and some of the older, more established players. There's a correct balance there and they've gelled. So taking that into account, there is no logical reason, given that anything can happen, why we can't progress to 4th. But I'm cautiously optimistic, partially pessimistic. I can see us, if we finished 6th and got into Europa League that way, I'd be happy. Mm-hmm. I don't think we'll get in the top 4. I think as much as it's sort of, maybe it goes against being Arsenal the greatest team in the world, but I think there are 4 better teams than us in the league. And that will see itself out by the time we get to 38 games.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the table now, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal. In most years, if you said to someone in this order, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, what am I talking about? They go, top 4. And I think the fact that you've got 4 teams who you would normally argue would be fighting for a European spot, so anything between top 4, top 6, and then you look above them, and you've got 3 teams: West Ham, Everton, Leicester, who you would ordinarily say one of them might have an outside chance of maybe scraping 7th place and getting into the Europa League because someone's won the cup and it's knocked the places down a little bit and they get in that way. And then the top 2, Man City and Man United. But right now we're 11 points. I'll use Man United for an example because we played the same amount of games. We're 10 points behind Man United. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think at some point in recent, just before Christmas, I believe we were about 12, 13 points off Liverpool, who at the time were leading the league because they topped the league at Christmas. The fact that we're now only 4 points behind them, we've closed a gap by 9 points in 6 games. What's to say that we couldn't close a gap of 9 points in 6 games on United? We're playing them at the weekend. You win them, suddenly, you've closed 3 of those 10 points, and you've played the same amount of games. Again, I'm not saying we're going to get in the top 4. I just think that anyone who makes predictions about what the top 4 is going to be this year, they've got to have balls of steel, especially if they're putting money on it, because it would be it's a mugs game to put money on the top 4 this year. It's so unpredictable.
You'd have no chance.
Yeah,
it could be Leicester, Villa, Man City, and
I mean, right now, Man City and United are in the top 2. I'm going to make a little prediction and say that by the time we've played 30 games, that one of those won't be in the top 2 anymore, at least.
That's interesting. I can't see, and they keep proving me wrong in fairness, but I can't see Man United sustaining a challenge. I think eventually Liverpool are going to pull their socks up and get back out there.
Well, hopefully not. But to say what you were saying about earlier, James, and I think you were both mentioning how upside down this league is. Man United this season at home, they have lost 3 games at home and no games away. Their home record, scored 12, conceded 13. I mean, even the likes of Leicester, they've lost 4 home games, 1 away game.
I will credit United with this. They're very good on the counter attack. I think they're far more.
How many penalties they get?
Yeah, they're. I mean, they got the 12th man and all, but credit where it's due. I was watching them play Liverpool the other night, and I thought, yeah, fair play. They're very good when they just retain possession.
Well, they are a bit one-dimensional in relying on Fernandes and penalties and the counter-attack. Other than that, they're not defensively strong. They're not midfield strong. Pogba hardly ever turns up.
But it's interesting, actually. You know, I do think they're a good side. And I think there's 2 points about Man United at the moment. The first one is the manager's been given trust in order to... I mean, he went through a period of bad results.
Is it trust, or is it they can't afford to keep sacking managers and getting new ones in? They've got it on the cheap at the moment. Because he isn't a high-earning manager, is he?
No. I mean, you know, it may be, you know, it may not be trust, but the semblance of trust, you know, trust by way of not having the money to sack him. But he's been kept on and he's been allowed to turn things around. And actually, if you look at the style of football that United play under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's actually very similar to the style of football that he played under Sir Alex Ferguson when he was a player. I'm not comparing the managerial talent or saying that the squads that they were in are anywhere near similar, but the Man United squads of the 90s and the early 2000s were counter-attacking teams. You know, they weren't possession, retain the football, play beautiful football like we did. They played attractive football, but I think there's a difference between attractive and beautiful. And I think United currently are an attractive team. Bruno Fernandes gives them that little bit of extra oomph, you know, that aesthetic brilliance that we all tune into football to watch because we want to be entertained. I wouldn't say that they're playing beautiful football. Actually, I don't think any team is actually playing beautiful football this season. I mean, you know, you had
some of the goals we've been scoring recently have been. I mean, the ones against West Brom and Newcastle, some of that was actually jaw-droppingly amazing.
The goal last night, Lacazette scored was a beaut as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have played some good stuff, and I think it's interesting actually looking at Solskjaer's style of football as a manager compared to what he was as a player. It's very similar. He's very much drawing on his experience of when I was a player, we played like this, we got results, and it's working out for him. Whether it will work out to the end of the season, I agree with James. I think, you know, the wheels will start to come off at some point, or at least the handbrake will come on. It's interesting looking at the way Arteta wants his teams to play football is unlike any style of football he played as a player. There are elements of it. You see little bits of, you know, the Wenger years in there.
Is it Pep-based, though, do you think? Do you think he's got from Pep and then and made it into his own, evolved it a little bit?
Possibly.
I think he's the amalgamation of the two, or at least he tries to be.
Yeah, what better two to learn from if it's an amalgamation of Wenger and Pep?
Absolutely. But one thing I will say for Arteta is, sadly, it's going to follow him around his whole career. He's always going to be, you know, baby Pep. He's always going to be seen as someone, you learned from anything he does is going to be linked to, it's because he learned from Pep. When I actually don't see a huge amount of similarity between the way Arsenal are trying to play and the way that Man City do play. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of pressing, but Liverpool press under Klopp, you know, Southampton press under Hasenhüttl. You're going to see Chelsea press under Tuchel as well. So I don't think pressing is necessarily a Pep thing. But I do think that, as I say, he's picked up bits from Wenger and he's picked up bits from Guardiola. But if we're going to compare him to an Arsenal manager, I would say that his first year or so at Arsenal, I would say probably far more reminiscent of George Graham than it is of anyone else, because the first thing he did when he's come in, he's worked on the defence. We're a much, much tighter unit. I don't worry that we're going to lose games to stupid goals anymore. I mean, Saturday we did, but you know, I don't worry about it the way I used to. I worry, are we going to score goals? And now he's got scoring goals. I think the defence has clicked. The midfield is improving now that Partey is playing a little bit more. And the attack looks a lot more settled now that we've settled on the fact that Saka is the starter, that we're not trying to bring him in and out and trying to get Pepe into form. No, Saka is the man. Saka is playing. And Pepe has to beat Saka in order to get into the team, or hope that Lacazette or Aubameyang isn't able to play, and then he can get his team. And I think now that we have that settled, or Arteta has that settled first choice 11 in his head, and I think he does have that settled first choice 11. I think that's where the results are coming from. The Sky Sports pundits are saying, "Oh, it's kind of falling into his lap because the young players have come in and done a great job." Well, I think that's bullshit, because Saka has been in the team for almost 2 years now. This is his second full season.
Emery gave him his debut, didn't he?
Yep.
And Smith Rowe as well.
And Smith Rowe, yeah. Tierney has just been, he's moved up a level, and he's just been playing fantastically well. The only player who really came in was Emile Smith Rowe. And okay, maybe that was luck, because the people in front of him got injured and Arteta had no choice but to play him. James and I have had this conversation a fair bit, especially with Mike and Sim and Jock, when we've been talking about the manager. And I've been a big advocate of, I trust his process, I see what's happening. And whenever the conversation turns to Willian or poor results, I've always said the squad is just not good enough. And James makes a really good point every time, which is the squad overall might not be good enough, but Arteta is the person who keeps on picking Willian. He's the one who keeps on picking El Neni. So
he's
anytime,
worked for Pepe, hasn't it? He's taken him a year and a half, but he's had a good game.
Yeah, but like I said, when you said that the manager picks the squad, Emile Smith Rowe may have got into the squad by chance, but he's played himself into constant contention, and Arteta keeps picking him. So, I don't think it's luck. I think it's good management.
Daniel's a little bit distracted because James has told us he needs a poo, so we've got to go.
Yeah, I was really trying to finish that without saying James is turtle-heading.
Not quite. It's not quite at that stage. It's not yet a fully blown stomach gurgling emergency.
To be fair, these are things people want to know. No one cares about tactics. No one cares about Saka or Pepe. What they care about is the bowel movements, irregular or regular, of James.
Well, I have IBS, so at times they can be hell worthy.
So have you got one of your boys' nappies that you can just string a couple of those together and hook them on?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone needs to see the pained grimaces upon my face as I'm shitting myself in a chair.
Yeah. And for anyone who wants to know, IBS stands for Idris Bankley Stokes. He's a left back who plays for Juventus, and Man City have just bid 50 million for him. So
he's one of my bastard children.
Yeah. we do need to get him. Right, James, is there anything you'd like to finally say before we wrap this shenanigans up?
Yeah, I mean, it's just nice to be able to be optimistic about a team at the moment, isn't it? I mean, since the Chelsea game, since that panned out in such a favourable way, like I was touching on earlier, I think we've crossed the bridge, turned the corner, to use all the cliches, that we look a much better team.
The more cliches, the better.
Yeah, you can be more optimistic for how things are going to go in the future, and it's just nice for all that bile and all that nonsense that everyone gets so het up and wound up about things when they're going wrong. It's nice for all of that to just, momentarily dissipate, and you can get a bit of gleaming optimism on the horizon. So yeah, I'm in a good place as far as Arsenal go at the moment. Not much more to add than that. Daniel needs a shit now as well. It's contagious. The desire. I'm not ordinary. Normally, I'm very sort of promptly a morning pooer. It's
4 a.m. mine.
My evening poos occur arbitrarily, and sometimes without any warning whatsoever.
I think that's called incontinence, James.
Yeah. Oh, I've done another.
No, I mean, what I mean is the sensation for a poo can come on, like that. If you ever suffer or you have suffered with IBS, you know that 1 minute you can be enjoying a cheese sandwich, the next minute you're opening a fucking portal to hell in the porcelain bowl.
And next week on a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal poo cup.
When you've gone too far, when a missus digs a hole in the garden and that is your hole when you've got a dodgy belly. Anyway, that's enough talk about that. Daniel, any final words for the wonderful listeners? Any news on Goonersphere? Any more lies you're going to tell them about when you're going to come back, get them all excited and then let them down?
Well, in the words of the great Arsene Wenger, maybe something will happen, and if we do it, you'll be the first to know.
Oh, can't wait! I've actually I went and got all your old ones.
Doing a podcast with Mesut Ozil.
I was listening to some of your old ones. We had the film clips.
My brother and I, Daniel knows my brother, and we're both very big film nerds. So we're thinking about maybe starting up our own film podcast. Like, if you've ever listened to anything like How Did This Get Made or the Rewatchables or any podcasts like that, we're thinking about having a pop at doing something like that ourselves. So I'm going to try and use this glorious avenue as a means of promoting that.
Good. Very good. I've actually made, I like films that I've made a database, a spreadsheet of the films I've watched so far this year. Hope Gap, Lockdown, Synchronic, The Most Wanted Man, Wild Target, Semi-Pro, and Blythe Spirit. And I give them a rating.
What's Synchronic about? To just watch the trailer for that?
It's huge plot holes. All I did, I tweeted that I watched it and I thought it was all right. And then one bloke went, cruelty to animals, and another one said it was racist. Fuck, they're kind of morons that watch films, but it's really good idea. But then it goes a little bit wonky, and you think, no, like you break a film up into three parts. First part really good, second part quite interesting, third part they went, someone else write the third part. I'm going for a poo. So,
like Venom, which is good at the start and just went to absolute shit by the end of it.
Well, I liked it, but again, I'm not a comic fan. Anyway, on those wonderful words. From you, my two lovely guests. Where can people find you, Mr. James Rowell Stokes? Where can they find you on the Twitters?
They can find me on the Twitters at James Rowell Stokes, all one word. And if you follow me, if your heart desires such things, and I can say that I will relay upon you great wonders and treasures, the likes of which the Sierra Madre has never seen.
Absolutely magnificent. Daniel, can you top that?
You can find me at POTUS.
Isn't that the one? No, that's not. That's how it was. Doesn't that his burner account? Because his other one has gone.
Well, that's the account I use for like politics stuff. People want to talk to me about football. I'm at Arsenal.
Yeah, excellent. I've got you blocked then. Sorry about that. Oh, dear. I didn't realise that was you. Oh, dear. Anyway, thank you very much to everybody for listening. Thank you very much to my wonderful guests, Daniel, James. And I'll give a little jockey doodah a little wave because he was going to be here, but we'd have had to have done it 5 o'clock yesterday and I was still in bed. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you will all be listening to a Goonersphere or a James Rowell Stokes production or the Stokes production of something film-based. I'll be listening to that because the great...
Follow Jock at Tramman.
Yes, indeed.
At Tramman.
Podcast is the Wittertainment. Hello to Jason Isaacs. If you are listening, I'm a VV.
I love hello. Yeah, you're a member of the Twitter, are you? I love and say hello to Jason Isaacs. I love that for a show.
It is. I'm a VV. I've got them all saved. I used to download all the podcasts going back to about 2009. Got them all, and I've never listened to a single one of them. Right, we're waffling and we're whiffling when we should be saying goodbye. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you on Saturday after Man United game. Everybody, if we can all wave at the same time, we're all wave. Goodbye.
He's waving. Look at Mr.